Good afternoon, Patho.
Good afternoon.
Welcome again.
Thank you.
So, in last podcast episode, we started to speak about AI's impact on
Yes.
education, which of course will be on the various stakeholders, which means on the students, on the schools, the people who set up schools, the parents, everybody. It's a topic perhaps which is reasonably vast and at the same time very pertinent. So we shall continue on that journey in this episode. I would just pick up one specific area to start with. What our experience has been at Skyworld School is we have picked up the basic academic process of the teacher immersed in a certain philosophy of the school, which in our case is based on multiple intelligence, inquiry based discovery method, and experiential learning. So every teacher is supposed to use these three processes within the lesson plan framework to ask questions so that the child learns through his own curiosity, creates experiences along the various intelligences, kinesthetic and intrapersonal and logical and so on. So this is how the philosophy gets converted into an implementable framework within which learning happens in the classroom, i.e., the framework of the lesson plan. Most schools have their own way of having their teachers create a plan, a learning plan. Subsequently, once the class is transacted, there is the time to assess the learning outcomes, wherein comes in the design of the question paper, and associated with it is a possible revision plan and a remedial plan, what each student needs. And finally, a certain measurement activity happens through assessment as the end result of a given quarter of learning. This, I believe, is a typical process in a school, done in various ways and innovations and use of technology and possibly use of AI. In this construct, how would you advise or share your perspective on the use of AI, that how will this process change with AI, and what would you have a school do uh, with your perspective if you were given that choice to make an impact on this?
So, I think whatever you mentioned can all be enhanced by using AI because AI can access that much more information, that much more data, and not just access it, but can process it in a much more sophisticated way, in a smarter way, and present it back to the learner in very effective ways. So I think that's the first point of interaction, where the interface, rather, first interface where AI will be used for enhancing the learning programs you have in your school. And of course, it can, and it will help in even in pedagogical processes. You mentioned multiple intelligence. So, not only at the definitional level, what are multiple intelligences, but how are they working? How have they worked? What is the outcome of using multiple intelligences wherever they have been used in the world, and the limitations, the possibilities? Everything can be brought by AI to the teacher, enabling her or him to make their own learning approach and program that much better. And just taking an example of multiple intelligence,
Yeah.
this can be used in every pedagogical aspect. Even in basic learning processes, what are these learning processes and how can they be enhanced, improved, made more effective in the learner, in the student?
Right.
The AI can do a lot of good work in this. And I have been interacting with some groups of teachers who wanted to learn more about this, and I sort of gave them ideas on how to do it and how to, because you see, everything depends on how you question ChatGPT.
Yeah.
So ChatGPT may have all the information, but if your questions are not smart enough, then you won't get very smart responses.
Yes.
So a lot of learning has to do with how to use ChatGPT, AI in this case, more effectively, to leverage it more for your own purposes. So I see schools doing that a lot in what I call the first phase of transition.
Right.
The schools that already have their own learning philosophy, their own learning approaches, their own learning plans for their students, using AI to make all this that much more effective. So some training perhaps would be needed for the teachers because, again, from what I've experienced with most teachers that I worked with, the school that we did the workshop with, the teachers themselves are not so familiar with
Yeah, ability to
AI.
use the tools is a very particular
Yeah, how to
training.
use the tool
Yeah.
more intelligently, more creatively,
Yes.
more effectively. So, and it's so new for most people. It's very new, and most teachers and students now they're using AI in very restrictively, in very limited ways. Just help me do my homework. Help me complete this assignment. I want to do research on this topic, so help me do that. And the teachers also know I need to teach this in tomorrow's class, so help me do that. How do I teach this best? So it's more or less to that point. So it's still very limited, and which I think is natural. I mean, to begin with, that's how it all happens.
Whereas, what is it that they can do?
Much more, much more. They first, a serious educator first needs to understand the nature of artificial intelligence, needs to understand the tool itself, what it is, how it is evolving, and how it will continue evolving, along what lines. Because the future, nobody's so sure about how it's going to continue evolving. Even the founders of ChatGPT are not so sure. The
Yes.
engineers themselves are not so
Yeah,
sure.
because the algorithms will take a life of their own.
Yes, because it's so dynamic, and it's no one can really seriously tell you that this is how it's going to evolve.
But then
So
the
there are
educator will understand
possibilities.
this.
Needs to understand that. First, needs to understand that there's no hard and fast rule about its evolution, because that's the nature of the beast. So and then needs to understand the multiple possibilities, lines of development that are possible, and really get into the heart of the matter to be able to use it most effectively.
And how will this understanding then translate into truly using it for her classroom?
So, as I said, that's the first
Teaching.
phase of transition.
Right.
Now, this must go more or less parallel with the development of AI. And as AI develops, it will enter more and more fields, even in education. It will, as we spoke in the last podcast that we have, how it will impact and alter not just the subject matter, but the pedagogy. The very learning mechanism will change because of this. So all that will start happening in the second phase of transition. Third phase of transition will be when learning itself shifts to AI almost completely, because learning from any other source in any other mode will become irrelevant
Can I
for the
use
serious learner.
Can I use as an educator? Can I do or experiment with things such as uploading a question paper and the marks of a class of 30 students, and asking GPT about the insights, into how well the class has learned,
Yeah, it can do that. It's already done. I know teachers who are using that. So
right?
that's already happening. It can be done, yes.
And
It is being done.
one thing that we believe at Sky School is that when we do our assessments, we tag each of the questions to a certain skill that the student should acquire by the virtue of that part of the
Yeah,
curriculum.
yeah.
So the question is tagged to the skill. It's also tagged to the fact whether it's a knowledge based question or a skill based question and which skill it is. Now, when the results come, the results are not merely saying that somebody has 8 on 10 and somebody has 3 on 10. It gives the educator data that you taught this class, but majority of the class could not answer a question which showed that this skill was not taught to an appropriate level. So the result, now we have more data to play with. Which skill was weak? Which skill is strong? Is the knowledge base weak or is the application base weak? So you have all that data with you. Now, if we have such data-driven assessments and we are able to upload this data to ChatGPT, now the GPT will be able to perhaps incorporate which skill is weak for which student and create a remedial plan or an individual learning plan based on that
Yeah.
student's
So you're talking
performance.
about using it as an analytical tool.
Analytical and a tool which will then simultaneously give us sample questions to address the learning needs of that given
Yeah.
student. So perhaps would you
That
agree that this
yes,
is another
yes,
use case
yes.
for AI
Yeah,
to
there are several schools that are already using AI for that
right,
as a very effective analytical tool,
right.
and they're also using it as a predictive tool
Would
based on the analysis. That if this is the analysis of this child's learning graph, they analyze the learning curve. They analyze the situation in which the child has learned, the particular child has learned, and then it can predict that if the child goes along this line, the child will do better because the child exhibits this kind of learning ability. And these are the limitations. So it can do that in a pretty detailed way.
so you're saying that if as a school that gathers data not only on the academic side, which I just mentioned, skill, knowledge, application, uh, if we feed the data of a school of a student as a school about co-scholastics, the levels of interest, the levels of achievement in the visual arts or the spatial arts or in sports, then clearly AI will be able to build a profile and do its
Yes,
predictive analysis even better,
yes, yes.
right?
Yes, it will. It can,
So
and it is
differentiated,
doing
it
that.
is doing it. So these are some of the very interesting
Yes.
use cases. So apart from that, you said that the first thing to do would be for the student to understand, the facilitators to understand what AI is, right?
What it is and what it can do.
So if you could just, briefly talk about that if I'm an educator, what is it that I need to understand about AI so that I can appreciate its potential and I can perhaps use it today?
Yeah, I don't mean a very detailed technical knowledge of AI, but at least an educator or a teacher should know at least what a LLM is all about. At least let's start with the basics.
Right.
That's basic, and how algorithms work, and what makes AI different from the internet, for instance,
Right.
and what AI is most likely to develop into. What's the immediate future of AI based on what's already happening from the time, let's say, the first version of AI came into what is happening right now. So, very basic things like that. You don't have to go into a lot of technical details, but at least you have a working knowledge of the tool. And then the second stage will be after you have this kind of knowledge about the tool is learning how to use the tool more and more effectively.
Yes.
Not just, I want information on this and you take the information, copy paste it. So go beyond that. Learn to engage with AI,
Yeah.
not just as a learning tool, but in a more creative, dialogic process. Because the deeper you start engaging with AI, the more you realize it's not just a tool. It is an intelligence, an artificial intelligence, but yes, it is an intelligence engaging with you. It is asking you questions. It is giving you insights that you didn't have or perhaps wouldn't have otherwise. So that would be the next stage to it. So
Right.
I know the tool, and then let me try to use this tool more and more effectively, and then let me see what are the further possibilities with this. It's from tool to something more than a tool, because it's a dialogue, it's a process. It's a dialogue, it's a process.
Understood.
You know.
And Partho, you also alluded in our discussions that for a mainstream school, whether be it ICSE, IB, or CBSE, uh, there is this compulsion or this prescribed framework within which to operate,
Yes.
set exams, pass the boards, etc. But you alluded that it's also possible to have a parallel learning process whereby certain students are identified for a rigorous learning program, which may be constrained by the
An advanced learning
framework
program.
of the board.
Yes. Yes.
It doesn't preclude the board, because once the students are a part of that learning program, they will be able to excel in the board any which way. But then they are now provided access to a way of learning, an exposure to learning, kind of teachers, which accelerates their area of learning
Yes.
very fast.
Yes. This is advanced learning.
Advanced learning of
Yeah.
the sort that you have mentioned in the previous podcast as well, unconstrained
Yes.
learning.
Yes.
Would
And learning which is very actively and creatively engaged with AI.
Right,
And it's not classroom based learning.
sure.
This is a very dynamic, very engaging learning process that is happening with you all the time, perhaps. So I personally see this as a distinct possibility with someone who's really interested in learning, involved with what he or she is learning. That while just the way young people use social media on their devices today, there will come a time when people will be using their devices to keep on engaging with this learning process, perhaps while they're riding the train or riding a car and going somewhere. And instead of wasting their time with social media, they're engaging with AI to learn something more.
So, is it possible to create a parallel program like this for a school?
Yes, of course it is possible. Not only is it possible, Manu, I personally feel this is going to become more and more a thing that needs to be done. Many schools will start realizing it, because you see, AI will bring about another change. A lot of students who will be engaging meaningfully and creatively with AI will be leagues ahead of their counterparts. The non what term should we use? Students who are actively and creatively engaged with AI, and those who are not. Who are still learning out of textbooks and the usual assignment work and using AI in a very limited way. So very soon there will be these two groups. I can already see that emerging. So let's say that a group of students who are deeper in their engagement with AI than the others. So they'll be leagues ahead. So you'll see that very soon you will start having students in every class who are way ahead of the other students because they are using AI more creatively, more effectively, more dynamically.
I see.
And these will be the students who would very rapidly outgrow the syllabus in the textbooks and their teachers. And will have their own learning pace and their own learning plans.
Right.
And they will be. I don't think taking an exam will be a big deal for them. But they'll be engaged somewhere else. I mean, they'll be engaged in learning at least a few levels ahead of their classes.
So, what
So
will be
sooner or
the
later, the school will have to address these students. Otherwise, you lose them, right?
no? This makes sense. I mean, now
Yes.
that you say it, I think as an educator, I realize that it's probably going to be very true,
Yes.
because AI, as we discussed in the previous episode, AI removes the limits
Yes.
that a textbook or a given teacher
Yes.
imposes on your learning. So
Yes.
if I'm a genuinely curious student and I have a area which genuinely excites me
Yeah.
and I'm passionate about, then I can access limitless learning,
Yes.
and not only just access learning, almost an agent, an AI agent that will talk to me, that will
Yeah.
teach me, that will
Yes.
pique my curiosity.
Yes.
So if I'm set free on this path,
Yes.
then I can rapidly move miles ahead of my peer group.
Yes. I have a very close friend in Florida whose son, once in my last trip there, I was engaging with him on a subject and a topic in physics because he was also very interested. He was doing an assignment on that. So he and I got talking, and very soon I realized that this child knows a lot more than what he's expected to know at his age in his grade. So I asked him, where did you pick up these things from? Not just information, he understood what he's talking about. Because I asked him questions, as is my nature. I wouldn't just let it fact go as if, you can pick up information from anywhere. But how much of it have you digested? So I asked him very pointed questions, and he could answer. So I said, where did you get all this from? I said, I engage with AI every day. When everyone else is playing their games on their, whatever they call it, Xbox or video games and social device, he's engaging with AI with his favorite subject. So his knowledge is already way beyond
Compounded
his age and
exponentially.
his grade. And there are other students. There are these. They form their own groups now. Very soon, I can see little groups, little clubs being formed by these students who are that much more engaged with AI.
So that means that if we were to go by a certain framework, let us pick, say, the theory of multiple intelligences, which says that the human brain can have 8 different areas of, the brain which lends strength to a human being. And out of those 8 intelligences, 1 or 2 are dominant in a human being. That he's naturally inclined,
Yeah.
not only is good at those areas, he enjoys those things as well. In a school space, in a class of 30 students, the students will be dispersed amongst their areas of interest,
Yes.
right? Which is the case, music or arts or logical, mathematical, and so on. So literally, if the AI as sort of an accelerator uh, is given to a student in alignment to his natural interest and ability,
Accelerator and catalyst.
absolutely. Accelerator and catalyst is offered to the student in a manner that it aligns with his natural strength, ability, and joy of
Yeah.
learning, then the probability of that student to use that platform to suddenly turbocharge his learning
Yes.
journey
Yes.
exists.
Yes.
So, as a school, then,
Think of a
yeah,
child who is a visual learner. She sees things and learns, not so much reads or hears. And she tells AI that, can you give me a visual representation of this theorem? Within minutes, AI will give it to you. It will generate a video, a graphic, more detailed than any that you and I can design just now, off the cuff. Within minutes, it'll generate it and put it there on the screen. And boom, you've got it.
so now you've just alluded very quickly to matching a learning outcome with the learning style. You're saying a visual learner, if
Yeah.
I'm teaching the heart, working of a heart,
Yes.
and in my class of 30, there are 5 visual learners.
Yes.
As a teacher now, I ask GPT to tell me how do I teach heart to a visual learner.
Yeah.
give me the right representation. It'll take a second to construct the image, a visual image,
Yes,
or
yes,
an interactive image,
yes,
or something which is more interesting than just looking at the heart in a
yes, yes.
textbook.
It can give an entire, within minutes, it can generate a figure, a human figure with all the circulatory systems in it, and actually show it to you in 3D how it's happening.
Right. So,
What more do you need?
yes, I mean, as a visual learner, there's nothing more that I
Yeah.
need. So, learning style alignment can be
Just think about
perfect.
it, Manu. This is only AI. Very soon, within a few years, AI and VR, virtual reality, are going to converge. They already are, in fact. And a lot of learning that's going to happen will be in a VR environment where you're learning three dimensionally. So now imagine AI has designed a three dimensional learning program of the human circulatory system. So you actually have the thing right there and you can touch it and feel it and move it and, you know, you do what you would be doing in a laboratory with an actual specimen. So
Right.
all that becomes possible with AI. So when we talk of AI, we are not just talking about AI. We are talking about several technological convergences that are rapidly happening even as we speak. So one of the things that's going to be very important development in the years to come is the convergence of AI and virtual reality (VR).
Absolutely.
Apple is already designed. The people,
Yes.
you already
Apple has
have
done it. Meta
the
has been working on it.
the goggles, and
Yes.
you put that on and you have a 3D environment. So imagine that being used as a learning tool, where whatever you're learning, you're learning about the surface of the moon, and you're actually there on the surface of the moon, walking in that gravity of the moon. Because in VR, you can actually even sense it. So, learning as we know it today will change so much, and I've been saying this consistently in just 5 years' time.
Yeah.
Is going to change so much that the learning that you and I are talking about today will truly be the learning for dinosaurs. And the next species, whatever you call them, the species that are heading towards singularity, technological singularity, the next species will not only not be learning this way, they won't be able to relate to this kind of learning. For them, it'll be like
Archaic.
archaic.
Stone
Like,
Ages.
what are you talking about?
Yeah. Right.
And this space is just, as I keep saying, exponential.
So then this potential can be unlocked by a school of tomorrow today by numerous practical applications, enabling the teachers to appreciate this technology, understand the tool, something that we touched upon, enabling the students with the right facilitation on how to use the tool for themselves, right? Matching the learning experiences, making the learning experiences AI powered.
Yes.
As you said, that for a visual learner, we can get the visual representation. Similarly, a teacher may spend 3 hours thinking, how do I teach the heart with someone who is a musical learner or who is a kinesthetic learner, right? I mean, for a human brain, it'll take certain time, certain research, certain ability. But the AI will enable that teacher to create that learning experience fairly quickly,
Yeah.
right? So this whole process is now getting AI powered. The ability to teach as per the learning style.
Yeah.
And then the reverse, where each student now knows their area of strength and go into the infinite loop of learning using AI. So
Yes.
how does a school enable these two aspects for the teacher
Yeah.
and for the
Yeah.
student?
So the school that really truly aspires to be the school of the future, uh, the school, the educators will have to start thinking along lines of not just artificial intelligence, but artificial intelligence and virtual reality converging as a learning tool.
Right. So the
That is the
experience can
future.
engage
That is the
with
future.
all the senses,
Yes.
the hearing
That is
and
the
the
future.
seeing. Right.
See, we are already using it in medical science
Hmm.
extensively.
Yeah.
In several other fields is being used
Hmm.
more and more effectively. So it's just a question of time. It's not if, but when
Hmm.
that convergence happens in a way where every student can just connect with this learning. I don't even want to call it a tool anymore. A learning environment, a learning machinery. You connect to it, and you're physically and neurologically and psychologically you're transported into this learning environment. And this is the learning of the future. And as you can see, it'll have nothing to do with the way we have been learning so far.
Right. And this accelerated batch that you were speaking about. So, how will students qualify to be in that? Who will be the facilitator for such a
These
batch?
are
Practical
so
questions.
far practical. These are open questions, very fluid. Once you get into it, once you start actually building such a group, you will discover a lot of things.
Right. But as far as the core idea is concerned,
Like I'm able to speak to a child. If I can speak to a child for half an hour, have a one-on-one conversation within half an hour, I'll know whether that child belongs to this group or that group.
right.
So
So you have
it's
to know the child.
yes, you just speaking to the child and you can make out where he or she is, where he or she wants to go. Because the language changes.
Right. Right. And the facilitator for the said group, what would be your
The facilitator would have to be very
view?
up to the mark with technology.
I mean, he himself has to be two steps ahead of his students,
Absolutely, yes.
right?
And he
So,
should be able to tell you, this is what's happening, and this is what's going to happen, and this is what I'm really interested in.
yeah,
The facilitator should be on fire,
yes,
should be excited, enthused about it, and shouldn't be waiting for the school to tell him that, do this. He should be coming to the school and say, you know what, we need to do this.
right,
So, someone of that kind.
understood. So, perfect.
Someone who has a passion for the future.
Yes.
Someone
So,
who can see that the child of the future will be totally unlike anything we know so far.
right. Okay. So I think in this episode we've covered some very practical possibilities for a school, because these are in our previous episode we had covered the bigger picture, right? In this one we have some insights as to what can be done today. If a school does wish to align itself to the world of AI. So
I think to begin with, we should at least have, at least once a week, we should be having a workshop with children on this subject.
right, the use of AI.
Inviting experts on this and letting them talk to the children that, this is what's happening. Not this is what's likely to happen or this is the future. The future is now. The future is happening already.
Right.
That's one of the things one should be doing.
Brilliant. Okay. All right, Partho. So on that note, I think we'll touch upon this on another podcast.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.